Hey there tech fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. Today, I have the Orei BK-EX130-K HDMI extension kit. This product was engineered to make it incredibly easy for you to share all of your HDMI media content with a second remote location up to 130 feet away over a single Cat 6 or Cat 7 LAN cable. The product fully supports 4K ultra high definition media content and is both HDMI 2.1 as well as HDCP 2.3 compliant, which means it's going to work perfectly fine with all of your modern media gear. The kit also includes a set of infrared blasters that will collect up the remote control signals from that second location and pass those back over that same LAN cable to the primary location where they're rebroadcast so you can effectively remotely control the content you're watching. The product also provides advanced EDID management settings where you can adjust for frame rate, resolution, and audio style to match the input media content and your output monitor. Now, as part of this review, I'd like to start with a quick unboxing just to show you everything that's included with the kit, and then I'll take a closer look at the transmitter and the receiver modules and explain the connections and indicators so you understand how to use the product. I'll do a quick demonstration as well to show you just how simple this product will be to use with your own equipment, and then I'll come back and point out a few things that I really like about this kit that you can use to compare it to others you may be considering. So let's get started with the unboxing. When you first pop open the box, you'll find a transmitter module and a receiver module. You'll also find two 12-volt 1-amp DC power supplies. You can simply plug this into any standard wall outlet, and the other end has a barrel connection on it, which plugs into the DC port on each of the modules and provides all the power you'll need for operation. Also included with the kit is a set of infrared blasters, and these look similar but they're different. Make sure you plug them into the right transmitter or receiver, and they're labeled. You'll also find a full instruction manual that lists everything you could possibly want to know about these products, including connection diagrams, specifications, and other really important information that you'll have to understand in order to use this correctly. Now, if you stay tuned next, I'll take a closer look at both modules, I'll do that demonstration, and then I'll come back and point out a few things that I really like about this particular product. Inside the kit, you'll find a sender module and a receiver module. Both of these feature full metal enclosures, which make them incredibly durable. Let's start with the sender module first. On either side of the cabinet, you'll find ventilation slots that are designed to let any heat that develops during operation escape and keep the electronics inside at a very comfortable temperature. You'll also find mounting flanges on either side of the case that allow you to mount this up off the ground and out of the way. On the one end of the module, you'll find an EDID switch, and that's explained in the manual, but that allows you to adjust the frame rate, resolution, and audio style to match your media content. To the right of that is a LAN port labeled RJ45 out, and that's where one end of your Cat 6 or Cat 7 cable between the sender and receiver module plugs in. To the right of that is a power indicator and a power port. The power port is used with the included power supply. You'll simply plug that into a wall outlet. The other end of that cable has a barrel connection on it, which plugs in right there. Now, the minute you add power to the module, it starts an internal power on self-test, and when it passes that test, it'll light the power LED, letting you know the module's online. On the other end of the module, you'll find two 3.5mm ports labeled infrared in and infrared out. In the case of the sender module, you'll only use the infrared blaster labeled transmitter, and you'll plug it into the infrared out port. To the right of that is another port that's an HDMI port labeled HDMI in. This connects to the media device you'd like to share the content from with your remote location. Standard HDMI port, always use a high quality HDMI cable for that connection. Finally, to the right of that is a reset button. You can use this to reset the module if needed. And the way you'll do that is apply power to the module and hold this down for 5 seconds, and that'll reset the module. The receiver module, again, is very similar. Full metal enclosure, ventilation slots on either side, mounting flanges on the bottom. On the one end, you'll find two more 3.5mm ports labeled infrared in and infrared out. In the case of the receiver, you'll plug the infrared in blaster into this port here. You won't use the infrared out. To the right of that is another HDMI port labeled HDMI out. This connects to whatever monitor you'd like to enjoy the content on at your remote location. Another reset button here that can be used to reset this module by holding it down for 5 seconds. On the other end, you'll find another LAN port labeled RJ45 in. This is where the other end of that Cat 6 or Cat 7 cable from the sender module plugs in. And then finally to the right of that, another power indicator and power port. Plug that second power supply into an outlet at a remote location. Plug the barrel connection in here. Once it passes that power on self-test, it'll light that LED, letting you know the module's ready to use. And that's pretty much it for the two modules. Now I'll show you just how easy it'll be to use this product with your own equipment. And for this demonstration, over here I've set up a small media player that's currently looping a video, and this is the media content that I'd like to share with my remote location. And this media device can be anything like a DVD player, a game console, a home computer, as long as it has an HDMI output. Over here I've set up a monitor that represents my remote location. This is where I'd like to enjoy the content from the primary location. And these can be up to 130 feet apart. In front of me, I have the transmitter module here for the primary side and the receiver module here for the remote side. Now the first set of connections I'll make are from the media player directly to the transmitter. I've already connected a high-speed HDMI cable up to the media player. The other end of that cable plugs into the HDMI input port on the transmitter. And now I can connect power to this as well. I've already plugged in the power supply. The other end of that cable has a barrel connection on it, which plugs directly into the DC port on the other end of the unit. And now we can connect up the remote receiver. I have a second HDMI cable connected to the monitor, which plugs into the HDMI output port in the receiver. And now we're ready for power on the receiver as well. I plugged that power supply in, and that plugs into the DC port on the receiver. And the only thing we're missing at this point is the LAN cable between them, which needs to be a Cat 6 or a Cat 7. I have a short Cat 6 cable right here I'll use for that connection. And I'll plug that into the transmitter LAN port and then the receiver LAN port. Now both of these modules have already started internal power on self-test where they're checking the electronics to make sure everything is working. The transmitter's checking the resolution of my media device. The receiver's checking the resolution of the monitor. They're communicating over that LAN cable and syncing up the video that's going to be sent across to the receiver. And there you go. And it's made the adjustment to give you the best possible picture at that remote location. Now what you're viewing there is media content from the primary side. That's HDMI that's been converted into a signal that can be sent over the LAN cable and then converted back into a video signal that can be sent over an HDMI connection to the monitor. So a lot of conversion going on, but again, 130 feet of distance between the primary and secondary locations, and it's just that easy to get it working. I hope that closer look was helpful. Now here are a few really important things to keep in mind when you're comparing the Orei BK-EX130-K HDMI extension kit with other products you may be considering. The first thing and most important thing about this particular kit is the fact that it fully supports 4K ultra high definition media content at up to 120 frames a second. A lot of other HDMI extension kits on the market may support 4K content, but it may only be 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second. So knowing you've got a kit that can easily handle the higher resolution at the higher frame rate means you can use it with a wider range of different media gear. Another important difference is both the HDMI 2.1 certification and the HDCP 2.3 certification. Because the HDMI standard has gone through a lot of changes in recent years, there have been a lot of new features introduced, and knowing you're on the latest version of HDMI means you can immediately take advantage of all those features. The HDCP certification is equally important because that controls copy protection. So again, knowing you're on the latest version of HDCP means you can play a wider variety of different media file types. And the final thing is the fact that the kit includes the infrared blasters, which you won't find on a lot of other HDMI extenders. The reason those are important is because they collect up the remote control signals from that secondary location and pass those back digitally over the LAN cable to the primary location where they're rebroadcast so you can effectively control the content you're watching. On other kits that don't provide the blasters, you can't actually control the content, so you have to start the program from the primary location and then run up to the secondary location to enjoy it. This gives you a lot more control over that content. Everything you need to get started is included with the kit, and with a few simple connections, you can be up and running in no time. So hopefully you found this review helpful.